Alrighty, on to the next section, the major scale section. In order to understand any scale, first we need to make sure we have a good grasp on accidentals and how they work. There are 5 accidentals that we'll be using. The first one is just a natural accidental. It looks like this. That's my way of drawing it. I'm not an artist. Maybe it's a little bit more vertical when you see it on music. The next one we have, well, let's talk about the natural. The natural is when the note is white. When you go back to the note as if there's no accidental applied to it. We'll talk about that in a minute. The next accidental we have is sharp. It means you take that note and you move it higher to the next note, whether it's white or black. It does not matter. So if the note happened to be black, you will go to white. And if the note happened to be white, you will go to black. And if the next note happened to be white, you will go up. I will show you that on the keyboard. The next accidental we have here is a flat. That means you go down to the next note, whether it's black or white. Follows the same rules as the sharp, but it goes down. Our next symbol we have here looks like an X. I like to put my dots here. Some people do, some people don't. It means to go up 2 half steps. If you have any 2 halves or anything, now it's a whole. So it's basically go up a whole step, whether it's black or white. So if you're on an E, you will go up to a C sharp, then up to a D, and that's what the double sharp on a C will land you. And then the next one is the way it looks explains it. It's a double flat, and you will do the same thing going down. So I'm going to review for you here the accidentals we just had. First was the natural. I'm going to get better at this. First was the natural. Next was the sharp, meaning go up to the next note, whether it's black or white. And then we have the flat, and then we have the double sharp, and then we have the double flat. So if we were to find the pitch C sharp, we would find C, this is C, and then sharp is the key closest to it. We find the C, and then we go up. If we were to try to find the pitch A sharp, we would find first the A, and then we would go up to the next pitch, and we would have A sharp. And here is where a little tricky will come in for you. If you were to look for the pitch B sharp, you have the B here, and the next note that it goes to will be C. The idea of it is simple, but you don't want to think sharps or flats mean black pitches without understanding that sometimes raising a note a half step could be white, or lowering a note could be white. So let's go to the next slide. So this time let's do the same thing. Let's do the same thing with flats. With the flat, this is what a flat looks like. So if you were to have D flat, you would find the D when you go down to the next note, whether it's black or white. If you wanted to do A flat, you would go down to the next note, whether it's black or white. Well, if you were to do C flat, here you go. You will go down to the next pitch, what happens to be B. And that's the way your flats will work. Now let's take a look at the double sharp. Double sharp looks like this. If you were to have a C double sharp, you would take C. You go up to the C sharp and then up again to the D. And that D would be C double sharp. If you were to take A double sharp, you would take this A here and go up to A sharp and then go up to B. And then B would be the same thing as A double sharp. And here's one of the things to be careful of here. If we were to take B double sharp, it would go up from B to C sharp. And C sharp would be the same as B double sharp. And what happens with the naturals are usually you will have a note, right? And say that note is a sharp note. The next time you see that note, it will have a natural on it. That means play the note without regard to the sharp. And this usually happens within a measure. If it's within the next measure, accidentals are not necessary, but we use what we call courtesy accidentals to help you not do that. Naturals are also used to work with you if you're going to use key signatures, meaning if you have two sharps, F sharp and C sharp, and every time you see F, you will play F sharp. The natural would mean to play F natural in that instance only and for the duration of that measure unless otherwise notated. And we will talk about that in later lessons. Now let's talk about major scales. There are two ways we're going to talk about major scales. The first one is using an order of intervals to use. Intervals is the distance between two notes. And the other way we're going to talk about is using key signatures. You will need to understand both ways and be prolific in more or less the key signature way. But understanding how the half steps and whole steps work within a scale can be of great value. When you have any major scales, the intervallic sequence goes like this. The first note will be the first note. I'm going to call that N. And then you have two whole steps. Then you have a half step. And then you have three whole steps. And then you have a half step. So here is the first pitch, C. And then you have a whole step. You skip the C sharp and you go to D. Then you have a whole step. This is the second whole step here. You skip the D sharp and you go to E. Then you have a half step. Remember, the half steps is the same idea as the accidentals. You go to the next note, whether it's black or white. So you go from E to F. You don't skip. And then you have a whole step. You skip the F sharp and you go to D. And then you have another whole step. You skip the G sharp and you go to A. Then you have another whole step. You skip the A sharp and you go to B. And then you have a half step and you have C again. And that is how it sounds. So it sounds like this. C, D, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. This is a great way to learn a number of scales quickly without having to learn the theory behind them, or more or less another aspect of theory. So let's do two more scales. So the next scale we will look at will be the key of D. Okay, remember the intervallic pattern. Note, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Come on, say it with me now. Note, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Okay, so you find the D pitch, which is right next to the D. That is the first note. And then you go whole, you skip half step, and you go whole. And then you have another whole, the black note in this case, half, whole, 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 and then half. And that is the D major scale. If you were to do the A major scale, it would be the same thing. Say it with me now. Note, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And find the A. And you have the first note, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And that is the A major scale. Notice that it has three sharps in it, the C sharp, the F sharp, and the G sharp. So now let's go to the grand staff and talk about key signatures and how they work. Okay, there are a couple of important things, or things to memorize about key signatures. The first thing is to know the order of sharps and the order of flats and where they go. So let's start with sharps. One of the mnemonic devices I like to use is this saying: frogs can go down and eat bugs. And what we do is we use the first letter of each of the words in that saying to memorize the order of sharps. Frogs can go down and eat bugs. Another way to look at it is from a geekier or intervallic point of view, and say that each sharp is a fifth away. So you have F, and above F you have F, G, A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. F, G, A, B, C. And you can memorize the order of your sharps that way. So you have F, G, A, B, C, C, D, E, F, G, G, A, B, C, D, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, E, F, G, A, B. That's just two ways to memorize the order of sharps. Frogs can go down and eat bugs, as well as their intervallic point of view. Now, the next thing you need to know is how that looks on the grand staff. F sharp starts on the top pitch here. These will always go in these places when they go. Let me try to get that more on the actual line for you. It's like a tic-tac-toe sign that centers around the F. Then you go down to the C. Then you go up to the G. And then you go down to the D. Then you go down to the A. Then you go up to the E. Then you go down to the B. And that's the way it looks. To me, I see this. 2, and then a longer line, 3, and then 2. For the bass clef, we start with F sharp, and we go down to C sharp, and then we go up to G, then we go down to D, and then we go down to A, and then we go up to E, and then down to B. The same pattern, 2, 3, 2. I strongly urge you to make sure you learn the notes on this treble and bass clef as soon as possible. You can make note quizzes for yourself. I would be happy to make note quizzes. Who knows, I may give you a note quiz, so just be aware of that. Okay, now let's look at the same idea for the flats. The saying I like to use for flats are bead, B-E-A-D, as it's spelled, and then good chocolate fudge. So you have bead, if you were to spell it out, and then good chocolate fudge. Remember, the secret number for the sharps were fifths. We went up 5 notes. The secret number for the flats are 4.